Hello and welcome to Hixxy Studio. Today on this video I am going to show you how to make this lovely little ladybird die. So we die card, my apologies. So we are going to use the ladybird die from the Jeanine's Art Hummingbees All Kinds of Insect selection. So you've got, along with our little ladybird here, you've got dragonfly, you've got spider, fly, bee and wasp, and some little beetles. So lots of different things that you can do with that. So we'll put that to one side. We just keep our ladybird out. And then the sentiment is from this Trimcraft selection of, it's just called Sentiment Dies, and we're using the With Love. So I'm going to grab that one out as well. So those are the two little dies that we're going to use. So before though that we do that, I'm going to show you how to create this background. Now, if you have a dotty stencil, then, you know, by all means, you know, use it. But I'm going to show you a way to do it where you don't need to have had a stencil. But we're going to start with, excuse me, the red part. And going to use Distress Oxide in barn door to create this. Now, I've got an A6 card base, and I've made that card base from white stamping card. And I'm going to take a piece of tape, and I am actually going to use this one because it took me a little while last time to decide where I wanted my, how far up I wanted it. So I'm just going to roughly follow that line. Okay, so I'm going to take that, and I'm also going to get a clean piece of copy paper just so that I can cover the rest of it and have my hand there. So I am going to get my my brush, quite a bit of ink, and because what I really want to do is I want to get a really nice deep red colour. So I'm not looking for sort of a distressed look. I'm looking for a complete cover. So I'm just going in there with the ink and covering the whole of the bottom of that card. I think this barn door is a really, really sort of lovely red for a ladybird. That's kind of like that, really like bright, almost verging on the orangey red. So I want to make sure I've got a really, really nice, smooth coverage. It's basically replacing using a piece of paper, I suppose, but let's get a really nice covering. Okay, and we're just going to lift that up and put it to one side and clean up here before we do anything else. Otherwise, we'll end up with ink on lots of things. I'm just going to get some water just to highlight that down. Rice paper. A bit more water on that. It doesn't seem to want to come up. Okay, right. So just going to leave that. In fact, what I am going to do, excuse me, just reaching out there. I'm just going to give that a blast with my my heat gun. Just a quick one. So my leads got caught, so I'm just going to hold it like this. The great thing with oxides is that while they are blendable and water reactive, if you let them dry or heat set them, give them a chance to dry, they do actually layer really nicely. And we're going to be layering, we're going to be adding some black soot onto the top of this. But I want to show you a way of being able to create these quite symmetrical dots without having a stencil. So I'm using a little piece of just an off-cut of craft card, and let me just remind myself of what I did. It's 2 inches by 6 inches. Okay, so I am going to, the way I did it with my ruler, that's, let me just check. Yeah. So I'm going in and I'm going to draw a line that's 1/2 inch in. Okay, that's right. Bear with me. I have one that I've already done, so I'm going to bring that out. Yes, that is how I did it. You can see what I'm aiming for here. So I'm going to go 1/2 inch in from each side with my ruler. Now I have a very old crocodile. I'll show you what that is in a moment if you're like, oh, what on earth is a crocodile? Okay. So I've done 1/2 inch in from each side, and then what I'm going to do from there is to go, and let me just check that I did that yet. I doubt myself sometimes with these. And this is now a 1/2 inch. Yeah. A 1/2 inch. Okay, something's gone slightly wrong there, but I'm not going to worry too much. We will cope. I'm going to go to there. It won't matter too much. We'll see why in a minute. So we'll have that as our line. So, oh, my crocodile. If you don't have a crocodile, you can use, if you've got a hole punch, you can just use a hole punch, just using one of the punch bits. And even if you can just do one line. So all I'm doing, so this is my crocodile. It's a great big monster. It cuts through some really big, thick stuff. And you see as I press this bit comes down here. So I'm just going to use that to punch some holes. And to start with, I'm punching them on where the lines cross. Oh, come on. So this, even if it's not exact, it gives you a much more sort of symmetrical than you would get by doing it perhaps with a stamp. So there we go. Okay, so that's the two outer edges, and then I'm just going to eyeball the middle of each of those squares roughly, and I'm not doing a very good job of this, but you get the idea. And there we go. So I have, oh, and there's all my bits. Let's get rid of all my bits. Now, one thing I did find out when I did this is that my crocodile, you can see, doesn't always cut completely circular, but it works enough. So while I've still got this piece on, because it's still protecting the rest of the card, and I'm going to bring that piece back in, I am going to start to use my little stencil. Now, because I've made it wider than the card, I have got sort of the room to fiddle around with it. I'm going to bring that right up to there so I know that I've got it in roughly the same distance. Okay. Leave it at that. I'm going to get my Distress Oxide, another brush, and I'm literally just going to go over like this. Sorry that you can probably hear my Gemini rattling backwards and forwards on the table as I'm doing this. It's just giving it a good old squish through. Rattling away beside me. Right, so there's our first row. Lift it up. Oh, look. Bad error there. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let's see if we can save that. That was my fault. I should have masked it off. I'm going to go back over. See if I can blend that out with a bit. You see, not bad. Because the black soot was still wet and I put the barn door over the top, kind of managed to save that. You may want to mask it better than I did. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this to line up my next line. So what I'm looking for is there we go. And then I can do my next line down. So I'm going to be a bit more careful this time and do these two lines. Doesn't matter if it's not exact. Like I said, I noticed on mine previous one that wasn't quite. I seem to be doing it again. This is my own fault for not masking off. And then let's find these again. Where are they? There we go. Pretty much. And just do the last couple of lines. And I think I might have to go back up to the top. So you could probably do with another line nearer top. There we have our dotty bottom. No, actually, I'm not gonna go back in there. I'm gonna just desist. Move those out. So there is our the bottom of our card. I'm going to put that to one side because I want that to dry, because we've got something else to do while that is drying. First of all, though, we are going to just do a quick clean up on here so that we're not making lots of mess. There we go. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to cut my little ladybird. Oh, look, I got myself all prepared and then forgot I got myself all prepared. So we're going to cut this little guy, and we're going to cut with love as well. So I'm just going to grab some tape them down, and there we go. And we are going to run them through. I'm going to run them through. We'll see. This one might need a little bit more pressure, but we'll go with it. All those bugs dyes, the insect dyes, they are what we might call simple dyes. There's no intricate cutouts. They all literally cut out the outline, but they do emboss. So once we've got this through and it's cut, then I'm going to emboss the ladybird. Let me check whether no, that hasn't cut. That's not had enough pressure. So I'm going to put that to one side for a minute. We'll come back and cut that again in a moment. We're going to emboss our little ladybird there. We're going to put her through. Once that's gone through, I will put this one through with a little bit more pressure. Cut that. Okay, so put that one there. We don't need that. We're going to put this one back down. We're going to put the magnetic shimmer in this time to give this sentiment a bit more pressure. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see even from the bottom, you can see the embossed detail on our ladybird. Right, so that's our sentiment ready for later, and that's now cut fine. So our little ladybird here is embossed. If I poke her out, you can see it's just an outline shape, but we do have the embossing. And so what I did with the card is I actually painted with the same two Distress Oxides. Okay, so barn door, which I'm going to put on here, and black soot. Now, I don't really want much, if any, water on these. I'm just going to make my brush wet, but I am going to get a piece of kitchen roll, excuse me, as I disappear. Right, just a little bit of kitchen roll to take off. Well, you can see I've been using black on that. Let's give that a little bit of a clean. There we go. So I just made it damp because really I want the really vibrant colour from the ink. So just enough water, just a tiny little bit, just to make this a little bit more movable. and then we're going to go in and paint. Now, I would recommend doing the red first because it's easier to cover mistakes from the red with the black than it is to cover mistakes with the black from the red. So I'm coming across here, and there are two little bits here that, if you look at pictures of ladybirds, they are usually white. So we're just going to carefully go around those. They are embossed, so it should be quite straightforward. There we go. So we're going to just paint a little bit here. And like I said, this is why I'm doing the red first, because if I do happen to go over these embossed dots of the spots of the ladybird, then I can correct that when I go over with black soot. Okay, so we are just, you do need quite a fine brush for this, very small brush, so that you can get into detail. You need enough ink on the brush so that it doesn't dry out and you end up dragging the hairs on the brush out because there's not enough sort of liquid. So I'm just going to add a tiny bit more water to that. It's starting to dry out there under the camera light. Then going round and round. See if I've got on there. Going over that ridge down the back, that's just where the wings join. Now I'm using Distress Oxides and they match what I've done the background in, but quite equally you could use watercolour inks. The pearlescent ones from Creative Expressions would look really nice, make it really shiny. You could use your alcohol pens, pencils, whatever you like to colour in. And I can feel that's drying out a little bit because it's becoming harder to move the paint. So a little bit more water. So whatever your favourite colouring medium is, you can absolutely use that on here. Okay, and I am going to just reach for my heat gun, give this a tiny quick blast. This stick pot, but not to worry. Just because it will prevent too much. It won't prevent it all, but it will prevent too much of the black leaching into that. So I've just cleaned the brush. You can see I've still got red on it. So let's just clean that a bit more. When you've got a fine brush, try not to do that with it because you will just separate all the bristles and make them point the wrong way, and then it kind of defeats the object of having a nice thin brush. That'll do. Right, so a little bit of water into our black soot, and because I'm using Distress Oxides rather than Distress ink, this is a really nice deep dark black, as you can see there. So I'm just going over the feet, legs, your legs first. So I've gone quiet. I'm colouring. They are quite thin, so you need to make sure you're getting over the top of them, covering them. A little bit more water with that. Moving better there. There we are. Now, coming up to the head, just like on the body, you've got those two little white bits. You've got similar on the head. In fact, there are 4. Now I'm going to try to avoid them, but depends what light you're in. There's like 4 little indentations, and if you can leave them white, if you're fussy like me, you like to be fairly accurate. There's one there. There's one there. But then if you're really not bothered, you can just go straight over them. No one's gonna judge. No one is going to judge. And if you are trying to avoid it, you go over by accident, then just go over the rest of them as well. Nobody will know. There you go. So you've got those 4 little white bits there, and then I'm just going to go in and do spots. I need a bit more pigment in that. This is where you can go over the edge if you need to, and it will go over the red, no problem. They are one of those things that are really effective. You need a good, to be in a good light though, to be able to see the embossing, because it's the embossing that sort of drives where you're painting. Okay. Oh, bristles have come apart there. Go back in and cover that, and then this one here. So there's our little ladybird all painted. So I'm just going to put that to one side. Give my brush a little bit of clean off in there. Right. So now we can look at assembling our card. So I'm going to carefully take off my piece of tape, which has given me a really nice edge. I am going to grab a piece of, just as you can see, it's something I've embossed, something else. I want a black stripe. Excuse me, I didn't want to have to ink it, so I am just marking off a piece of where I want that. Ooh. It's for these sort of reasons that don't throw your scraps away, because even for cutting sentiments, so you don't have to cut into a whole sheet for cutting these little random bits and pieces. There we go, that's the bit I want. That bit is just going to stick across there. So let's get a little bit of glue and stick that bit across. Ooh, hold on to it. Like so. Ooh, I might not have cut that quite wide enough, but we'll live with it. We will live with it. There we go. And then our with love, which is here. Use a little brush, clean that out, and then get everything out. That's going to go up there. A little gluey sheet that we can blot off on our tweezers. Glue. Yeah, it's going to go there. A piece of paper just to rub that down with. And then our little Ladybird is going to have a bit of 3D glue gel under her there, and she is just going to be crawling up the page. And there you have our little Ladybird card using the Ladybird die from the Jeanine's Art Hummingbees, all kinds of insects set, a couple of distress inks, and just a little bit of creation with your own little mask there. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.